Good morning, everyone. Let me start by the existing protocol, but uh, in addition, let me quickly recognize the MD of this hospital, Professor Issa. Thank you for welcoming me here. Thank you for making us psychiatrists proud. In case you are being here with your management very well. And I also want to congratulate convener of this meeting, Dr. Tebesi. Well done. Represent also globally. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for Cyrus, from the representatives of government, our royal fathers, Catholic but thank you for taking time to be here and honoring Dr. Tebesi. I'll go straight to my assignment, which is to talk about the psychiatry or mental health in Nigeria, past, present, and future. Can I have eye contact with you? Yes. Now, the past is behind, and we have to learn from it. The present is here, so we must learn to live it. The future is ahead, and therefore we must prepare for it. That's the most known. So can we enlarge it a bit so that those who are using glasses like me from behind you see? You can. So let's look at the global statistics, and then we come down home to Nigeria and then to Ilorin. So the convener, Dr. Tebesi, already said something in the introductory speech that was made. The fact that about 1 billion in the world, that represents about 12.2. That's like saying 1 out of every 10 worldwide are living with mental health disorders. This translates to about, I would say 1 in 7 or 1 in 7 to 10 people. With depression and anxiety disorders being the commonest. Okay, and a lot of people are suffering this disorder in there and the old world for suffering. Illness accounts for about 14% of global body of diseases. The body of being ill, it is mental health that constitutes 14%. Suicide, something we don't want to talk about in Nigeria because of stigma. A lot of people have died through suicide. Sometimes we read it in newspapers. Sometimes people say, oh, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with her? It's a coward. Why should someone die by suicide? We are not asked, why did that fellow take his own life? And most of the time, people are suffering from mental disorders that they are just there, don't want to talk. And I tell you something today that I think we can take home. That 2 out of 3 people who will eventually commit suicide will have told someone at least 2 to 3 weeks before committing that suicide. How we handle that information determines whether that fellow will be alive or not. So if you say, Mama Jambo, and you are a good Muslim, you are a good Christian, and then don't be surprised that 2-3 weeks after you will be called is dead. But if you move fast by telling someone in mental health, Budegba, Pursuit, UITH, or even the doctor closest to you. This is it. You might save that life. In fact, the chances that you will save that fellow is almost 80-90%. Please take that away from here today. Less than 10%. Do you know that less than 10% of those who need mental health services actually get it? Either because there are no mental health facilities around. Before Budegba came here, maybe you have to travel down to Ilorin or not take in Ogbomoso or usage. But it's right at your doorstep now. Then how many of us mental health practitioners are in Nigeria? Do you know that the number of psychiatrists in Nigeria is just about 200? I will talk about the Jackpot thing. How many have left? We just struggle. Inside my service, Salah Suleiman. Salim, you train. They go. We are not angry that they are going. But each time they go, we start afresh, training people. Some of us should be resting by now, but we can't. Right? Because the younger ones need to be trained to replace those who are leaving. Next slide, please. Nigeria is a country with about 36 states and FCT. And you see that our population has been increasing from 79.8 or almost 80 to 140 to about 235 by estimated population by the UN. So the population is increasing. Here the number of mental health practitioners, though increasing as will show, but not commensurate to the explosion in the population. Now I've said this before, and then that about 20-30% of Nigerians also suffer from mental illness, which are contributing to 1 in 4 will experience mental disorders in their lifetime. Can you imagine? About 1 in 4 people in Nigeria will have one mental disorder or not. You might say, no, possible, it's not in my family issue. Sometimes it's there, it's because you didn't take good look at it. And by the time you know the various things, then you will understand that this thing is around us. Now, depression and anxiety, even in Nigeria, continue to be the commonest. Okay? The median age of about 18 is the standardized suicide rate age in Nigeria. About the studies now, these studies are not really telling us what it should be, because most of the suicide cases that happen are suppressed. They are not reported. We don't have good reporting system for suicide in Nigeria. So most of the one you hear, maybe newspaper, but a lot of died suddenly, died after brief illness. Sometimes there is more. So, but even based on that, the studies in Nigeria that we have shows about 8.8. That's about 9 out of 100,000 people have committed suicide. 40% of Nigerians aged 15 to 64 engage in psychiatric substance use, taking drugs, cocaine, lipo, cannabis, tramadol, ice, what they call ethnology. That one is common with our young people. Next slide. Now, what has psychiatrists or mental illness, psychiatry or mental illness been like in Nigeria? I will just look at it as the pre-colonial period on pre-1954 and 1954 to now as the modern era of psychiatry in Nigeria. Before, it's not that we were not treating mental illness in Nigeria. We were. Our fathers or forefathers were doing something. It is whether that something was really effective or not. But in the absence of something that you can do, whatever you do to save life is worth it. If it's better than placebo. Placebo is like better than Tasha. So, traditional mental health practice has been àwọn bàbá wọn ti ń lo ewé asòfẹ́yẹyẹ Wolfia Victoria, the speed when you crush it, okay, in my village they use it as part of the wares for masquerade for the eye gums. All right, so it's been, right? And when you use ewé asofẹ́yẹyẹ and crush it, it contains risperidone that will lower blood pressure, and therefore the patient will be calm. So it's used to take care of psychosis that is aggressive. Okay? But of course there are problems with using them. But that some patients will not come round properly because you have damaged it, and it can not all mental practitioners or what we call herbalists or diviners. Eléwé ọmọ wà, babaláwo wà, ìgbàlá nífà ká máa ń bọ̀, so and gbogbo onífá ló mewé, gbogbo eléwé kọ́ ló mọfá. So all herbalists, all diviners know about herbalism, but not all herbalists know about divination. So, but just to tell you that we were doing some spiritual therapy. Our pastors, our homies, our fans. If it happens, my great uncle was Uluode. So when there is a problem, I know people come in the neighborhood from the villages, they come to him, he gives this, give that, just to help. And he was doing some spiritism, consulting spirits, they were doing it, okay, exorcism. And then, even all this happened in Europe and America of today. It's not as if it's peculiar to us. Àwọn òyìnbó náà ṣe all these things we are talking about. They even did in the what's called the Renaissance days, when science was coming up. There was attempt to use science. For example, this trepanation was done by making holes in the original barrier, that believing that spirits that causes mental illness, if they make a hole, the thing will fly out. See, their own is even worse than so people have done a lot of things, including cutting part of the brain, lobotomy, insulin shock, dipping people inside cold water and hot water. So that's water therapy or hydrotherapy. But then let's come home. When the colonials came, the West African region, they started this first one, 1820 in Sierra Leone, the first asylum. Remember that time there was no Nigeria. People just move around across West African region until they divided, they sat down somewhere and divided us in 1904. So, and then Calabar was the first one in Nigeria, asylum. And what is it, asylum? The aim was just to keep people there, custodian, just keep him or her mentally ill, just put them there. It was not really about treatment, it was just keep them safe from the public. That's why they are called asylum or custodian. But things changed gradually when people saw that, oh, this is normal. You can treat people better in the humane way, with respect. So, see, Yaba psychiatric hospital, the one they call Yaba Policy, started in 1907 with just 48 patients. And then, since then, we have others like Arrow also came on board, and then we have Hussein, Kaduna, right, UCH, and Kwari, Scotland, yes, Kwari, and then you have UITH, and then so Budeba. I think Budeba is the youngest. I don't know one after. So that's it. So now this is the 10th psychiatric hospital in Nigeria. So we have grown, we have moved. So it's good to recognize this past that we are not stationary. Next slide, please. So, like I said, okay, and then we have transformation of the treatment modality, and establishment of own psychiatric departments in teaching hospitals, all right, and federal medical centers. So we have moved. Now, but like Dr. Tikman says, there is still something that we are still battling with, but we have also moved. Stigma. In spite of it, people don't want to come. Oh, they will see me. I was telling Dr. Sadu that sometimes you have patients say, relatives say, don't you know me? I say, I don't know you. Hey, you mean you don't know me? I say, I don't know. If I come to that your hospital, people will recognize me. And I tell them, hey, just like you have other people also have their own issues. Ẹ tó bá rọra tọ́jú rẹ̀, ó lọ ju mú. So take care of yourself. Forget about what people will say. So that stigma is still here. I don't want people to know. I don't want people to see me. Alright, but when things get bad, people who do not want to see you will see you in a bad way. So why don't you take care when it is still very early? The earlier presentations are made. You see this mental illness, it's very easy to treat, especially if people come early. We don't admit that people, no. It's only when we don't have a choice that we want to protect the patient from himself or from others. When they come early, we can manage as outpatient and nobody will know. Please, from today, anyone you encourage the fellow to come early. And ẹni doctor ẹni wá kù kó dàbẹ̀ gbọ́ pẹ̀lú wa lọ́rùn à ń sọ̀rọ̀. That's the training. Even if your wife comes to me to talk about and I see you next day, good morning sir, I will only pay. Unless your wife tells you yourself. That is training. So please be encouraged to come forward. Next. It will be unfair if we don't mention some of our heroes past. Some people worked before us. Alright. There are people like Professor Adeoye Lambo, Asuni, Anomoye, Oshodi, Jegede. All these people worked in the early part from 1950 something in the colonial period or around the colonial period. And then the second generation people like Onatawura or Vejide and then Rapid or Ute, this people who worked before us. And when we come to learning, there was a man called Ushodi when Kwasut was General Hospital Ilorin in the northern region days. Okay, and then Ogunremi, Olayemi, I'm sure you've heard of Yemi Hospital, right? Oyewumi, Professor Abiodun, Professor Adelekam, they taught us, right? And some of us present here, Professor Isa, they also taught by them. Okay. And then one nurse called Mr. Omoshedi, if you look, there is an hospital called Omoshedi Hospital, that is, he was a psychiatric nurse in UITH, one of the early ones, and I think it deserves to be recognized. Mrs. Ajoge, those who trained Mama Ajoge, yes, and then Mr. Bakari, and Lubide. I can't mention all, so I just did this to show that it's not one person, it was a team. Nurses, doctors, medical psychologists. Let's go on, please. So now I want to approach the remaining issues to talk about, because when we are talking about past, present, future, I've tried so many slides and I saw that we can't talk separately about past sometimes without about present and then without future. So I will just take them on under treatment services. What are the services we render under treatment, our systems services, and then other health systems. We talk about funding, mental health activities, policies, and then we also talk about research. So we're talking about, in short, training, services, training, research. So under treatment services, let's look at our manpower. A total of only 5 psychiatrists around 1963. 5 now in the whole country. And these are these people I mentioned earlier. Some of them, right? Who came back to Nigeria after training abroad. They came back to render services to this country. Right? And then it grew to 25 in 1975, 35 in 1981, And now we're talking about like 200 psychiatrists working in Nigeria, serving 235 million people. Okay, that's about 1.2 million. What is one psychiatrist taking care of 1.2 million people instead of one psychiatrist to 10,000 as recommended by the NCCN? That's like we are times 10 short. Some of the ones we trained, they've left. Some of the ones who are here, they are old people. Some of them are in management, like Professor. So, and you will be able to witness that now I still run clinic. World. Some of my teachers, whom I will not mention, were not doing it at my age, or not before my age. But the work was gone, right? Then there were a lot of people, so they could do other things like administration and so on and so forth. So while we do the younger one with energy, we do the clearing of the base. Now look at the number of psychiatric hospitals. So it has increased. Now we are saying the 10th mono psychiatrist hospitals that are devoted as psychiatric hospitals. We have others in teaching hospitals, right? So if you add all of them, department teaching hospitals and FMCs, they are over 30 now. The last count I did was about 31. So we are doing well. Psychiatric nurses recommended is 1 to 2 nurses, one nurse to 2 patients. We manage 2 patients, but here sometimes we have 1 nurse on duty. In my place in UITH, okay, unlike before that we used to have many on duty, especially morning shift. But things have changed. Nurses are also jackpotting too, and then clinical psychologists we don't have many. In the whole UITH you have 1 or 2. Here I don't know how many, but then again social workers they are also not many. Next slide. Infrastructure. The number of psychiatrists, we've said that, so we won't go there now again. Alright, in terms of public hospitals, they have increased, and I took it down to specialists. So instead of 9, I'm corrected now that it's 10. Tertiary hospitals 20 that have psychiatric hospitals, and FMCs 24. But even out of these 24, not all of them have mental health facilities. Then data center, what we call drug abuse treatment centers. We have about 10 to 12 models, including now our UITH and Kwasuch and then UITH. That's the most beautiful one here. All right. Okay, thank you. That's my area of subspecialization. So don't mind me that I'm telling them, but that's the truth. It's beautiful, is it not? I've been there this morning with ACO. Okay, now so private psychiatric hospitals. I mentioned 2, really, and then Omoshi. So we have what, and all over the country now, our colleagues are now coming up with private hospitals. Sorry. Okay, all right, thank you. Equipment, we are also doing fine. ECT machines we now have. We do modified versions now instead of before that we do just unmodified. The patient will not even know we are doing ECT. Okay, CT scan, MRI. I know some of our hospitals like CT scan. So and they also have FM magnetic. Transmagnetic stimulation. Next slide. Treatment modalities. You know, psychiatry before. Some of our psychiatrists once working in psychiatry were not regarded as doctors because they couldn't prove. Like, you know, my colleague in orthopedics will show you that the bone is broken using X-ray. Me, if my patient does X-ray, you won't see anything. Alright? If you do tests, sometimes you won't see anything. That is the thing as psychiatry. So, but even to treat, we didn't have much medication. Patients would just languish in asylums. But from 1952, things changed. When they discovered neuroleptics, propomazine, what people know as psychiatry, and that was accidental, but since then it's revolutionized. We didn't need to keep people in hospital for too long. You can keep people in 2 weeks, 1 week is well. Let me tell you, there is no mental illness. Could have gone one die, doesn't matter to us. They will be well, and we will treat that fellow and they will be well. In my career of about 1990, that's 33 years from residency, I don't know how many we've treated and didn't get well. What happens is that people don't follow our advice when the patient is well. Believing that is the one that works. You know that when our patients are being treated on the ward, people still smoke àwọn oríṣiríṣi. In fact, about the non-diagnosis, you will not believe. One of my patients, we entered the ward in the morning and saw big cocoa alamọ under the bed in the hospital. He said nobody must touch it because they told him that cocoa will not run it. The cocoa must not touch it. So to hell with that, get it out of alright. So when the patient got well, I said, see you now. You now realize what you were doing was just waste instead of concentrating. So make sure you bring your child for people will not come for follow-up. And when they don't take this medication and stop on their own, they relapse. That is your own father. That's the problem. Because initially they did not believe it's what we are doing also that is working. Alright. So we have moved from the old medications to new ones. People that we have less side effects. I don't say shit. It's because the fellow is not coming for follow-up for adjustment. When they start buying the medication on their own. No, when you are coming to us to the clinic, as you are coming, before you enter my consult. You know this man standing beside me. Yes, I found it on my laptop. Yeah. That was the day they were digging the foundation of data center. That was yes, he was the head of the department in 2017, no, 16 December between Christmas and New Year. So keep this thing. It's me that is behind there, and this Professor Jibuye. That's the current CMD of the UITH, alright, and that's Professor Jibuye. So you have to training of medical practitioners. Okay, we've talked partly about that undergraduates, but the postgraduate we have 2 colleges training us or training our people. We also went through it, all of us here. Move on, right? And then funding. Now, it's still very low. 3.3 to 4% of national budget of health. Not the overall budget. When you take the health budget, 3.3 of it goes to medical. Out of that 3.3, there are what really gets down, 25 budgets. You see one game? 0. Okay. Everybody said that you see 0. Yes, I didn't want to see 0. 26. 0. So even though the figure is not getting down, right? Now, that translates to about $1.5 or 2,000 naira that is devoted to each of us for our mental health care, and we don't get it. Good morning, sir. It is lower than what the WHO recommended. That's 5% for low-income countries. Next. Okay. I think the point I've made, so to save time, okay, that I would say that even though we set out these investments in the mental hospitals that are created, there are still obstacles. You know that some communities do not even want mental health hospitals to be located in their community. I don't know the experience of Professor Isra in locating this place, but our elders here, But as you ask the community leaders, I will tell, I'm sure there were oppositions. Initial resentment, and until now, as an entity the benefit. So it's not even just about money, there can also be political will, then stigma from community for proposed location and poor funding. Okay, then lack of incentive for people you will post there in terms of security now, cost of transportation, schools for the children of the staff, accommodation for them. All these are problems. Let's move. But in Ghana, look at now, mental health funding is more effectively leveraged, more effectively leveraged laws, just like Dr. Dickinson was saying. In Europe, there are laws that respect patients and so on. Here, our community level mental health is still poor. When you discharge patient and the patient is going home, who do you hand over the patient to for care at the community level? You don't have. When the patient loses his job due to mental illness, how do you ensure that the employer doesn't sack or replace him? There are in other places you are not supposed to sack the fellow. Rather, you need support. You don't have that kind of system. When his landlord drives him out of the house, who helps? We don't have such. When they can't feed, we have government facilities that can say, come and take food. That is where Mind wants to help. It's a very good innovation that will help us. Thank you very much. Now, even insurance tax, there's this NHI. We are doing a fight every day to ensure that our patient gets insurance. Before, they were not there. They removed them. If you have mental health, you cannot get insurance. You say we don't agree. If you can treat our patient, then you are entitled with insurance. You must treat our patients with insurance in Nigeria. So now, but they have now included them as this. Thank you. So next, mental health act, which is going to be the next section. I won't talk much. We have suffered in Nigeria. Our patients were not taken care of. Can you imagine that? Not until 2021, so it's just 5 years ago, we were operating a lunatic law, 1890. When they were changing all laws, the National Assembly, they were not changing that laws. When we struggled in 1999, that they must change it. You know what some people said in the National Assembly? That was how they threw it away. But the young crop of doctors, psychiatrists now, this is saying that we must change it. With all efforts, including non-official efforts, those who understand, we were able to get the law passed in 2021. So we now have a new mental health law, or maybe new mental health law in Nigeria. So we'll be talking about it in the second session. It has coverage. So we have done well, and then we talk about it. Still has some loopholes that we need to modify, and I think that's what we have in the second session. So I will not go into it so that we save time. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the systems, I'll just summarize that. We've done well in treatment services, but we need to do more in strengthening our systems. Often we forget to strengthen these systems in terms of funding, in terms of policy, in terms of building blocks, right? In terms of linkages and referrals. Okay, that's one area that is still missing. Go to the next slide. Okay, so there are about 5 standard systems or system standards, 1 through 5, that we need to look at. I will not bore you with all of them, but it's just to oversee planning, funding, monitoring and evaluation. There is no point doing something without first looking at the needs assessment. What exists? What is the gap? What do you want to do? Then you set up your goals, and then you also plan to monitor and evaluate as you are doing it. If you don't monitor and evaluate, you are wasting resources.